So we're going to learn how XPath works, okay, with Selenium, and we're going to use Firefox browser. So this is the Firefox browser. I am in the GitHub page, and I have opened up this Firebug. If you click on this or press F12, this Firebug will be open. In Firebug, I want to basically perform these three steps. I want to enter some text over here, the username field, then the email field, the password field, and then I need to click on this button. That's what I need to do with the help of Firepath, and we're going to write some code in Java Selenium, and we're going to see this working automatically for us. So let's go step by step. First of all, I need to open the driver. Yeah, this is the code to open the driver. Driver equal to new Chrome driver. We can use any driver of our choice. We have navigated to the GitHub's homepage. We have waited for 2 seconds. Then the next part that you are going to do is find this element. To find this element, I have used this strategy. I have clicked on this icon, arrow icon, and I have found this element. And I found that this is the code for that element. So if I want to perform some action on this element, I need to find this element first. To find the element, I have multiple ways, multiple strategies to find. The first one is using the ID identifier. So I have used the ID, this is user login. So this ID is unique and I can use this one. As we have already seen how basically ID identifier works using by.id, we have already seen how class also works, but now we are interested in seeing how XPath is going to help us. So right now I am going to show you how we can find the XPath for this. So XPath is nothing, it's just one way of finding one element in the XML page. If you look at the HTML page, this is the HTML page, the code of the HTML is nothing but an XML page only. So it is very similar to XML. So if I want to find one element from that HTML page, I can use XML based approach as well. So XPath is it's an address of an element in an XML page. In Selenium context, when we say XPath, it's the identifier or it's the ID, it's the like address of an element in the HTML, entire HTML code or HTML document. Okay, so over here we are not going to write the XPath directly. Rather than in this HTML page, over here you can see the HTML page, we are not going to go there. We can go to the last one, that is the Firepath page. Once we click on that, remember to have this XPath selected. Okay, now XPath is selected. The next thing is very similar. We need to click on this icon and we can find the element. This is the element. Let's click on that. Okay, now you can see the element is highlighted over here and there is some path over here. This is some path which is displayed. So this is actually the entire path of that element. So starting from HTML, this is a tag HTML. So if you go to the top, you can find there is HTML. Within HTML, there is another body. Okay, so you can see within HTML, we are going into body. Then there are multiple div elements present, but we are going into the fourth div element, div bracket 4. So this is the first div, second, third, and fourth div. Our element is within this div, so we are using div 4. Then div 1, div 1. So this way, at the end, we have reached to our element. So whenever we use this thing, we can find the element. This is the element we are interested in. So let's copy this entire context, entire text, right click and copy and go to our code and we are going to find the element. So the first element is the username element. So this is going to be username. Driver.find element by dot. Now we are not going to use name. We are going to use XPath. Okay, over here we are going to pass the value. Okay. Now we need to, after finding this value, this element, we need to send some data. So this is the text which I need to send. So what I am going to do, I am going to give the command username dot send keys and I am going to pass this element. After entering that element, I am waiting for 2 seconds. So let's run this code. It is going to run on Google Chrome. Okay, you can see it has found the element and it has entered the text. Okay, this is how we find the element using XPath. And you can see this path is basically containing all the way from the starting element, that is HTML, then the body element, all the divisions till we find this element. But it may be difficult at later point of time if one of the division changes its place. Suppose one of the division, now your web developer has made some changes, the UI developer, they have made some changes, and this div is no more existing. But the web page is looking great. We have not changed the code in our Selenium code. So this is not going to find that element because the path has changed. So with a slight change in the UI, the XPath will break. So there is a larger chance in the XPath to break whenever there are certain changes in the UI which are made. Okay, so that is the reason we don't use this type of XPath generally. This is what we call the absolute XPath. This is what we call the absolute XPath. Absolute XPath is the address or is the position of the element, finding the element's position from the root of the entire document, that is from HTML body and all the way through till we find that element. But this is not advisable because there is a higher chance of getting error if the UI is changed. So that is the reason we don't use this way of finding the element. Rather there is an enhanced version of XPath, that's what we call a relative XPath. So we are going to find one input element that is related to some other division or some form like that. Okay, so we'll see that. So what we are going to do now, this is the one which we have found. Okay, over here we can click on this. Okay, in fire path this drop down is there, we can click on this and we can say, you can uncheck this one, generate absolute XPath, you can uncheck this. Okay, now that's done. So let's clear this out and let's find the element once again. Click on this, find the element. Now you can see this XPath is little different. Okay, so let's copy paste this one. Okay, this is the new XPath that we are going to use, but there is some changes in this XPath. What is that? So let's look at that. Okay, driver dot find element. Now we are going to use this XPath, and you can understand this XPath is not that complex like the first one. It is very simple, and there is a very less chance of the code to break because even if the UI changes, okay, you can look that over here. If the division moves one place ahead, it becomes 4 to 5. Then we need to make the change. If the division is removed, we need to make the change. Anything in the page, if it changes, the absolute XPath needs to be updated, and it is very much sensitive towards the UI change. But if I give this XPath, this is very similar, but this is having some weird characters. We'll discuss them. So in this, we don't have any HTML, we don't have any body, div, nothing. We just have this small XPath. This is called the relative XPath. In this, you can see it is saying dot and double slash. Dot and double slash. What does it mean? It means dot is the root of all the elements. So that is the HTML. So it is saying that find from the root. This XPath, it says that find from the root, and 2 slashes, that means all the elements. So it is going to find for all the elements. Okay, so find all the elements from the root. Okay, then this star is basically for all elements only. So when we reach over here, it is giving one expression, this bracket and this bracket. Within that, these two square brackets, within that we give the XPath expression. It says @ID. @ID means this element which I am finding all the elements. But out of those all elements, I am going to filter out only, and I am going to return only those elements which are having the attribute. Means attribute. Attribute ID value equal to user bracket login. Understood? So when we look at the code, we can see it is finding all the elements, all the input elements. Okay, we have not even specified if it's input or not. We just say find me all the elements who is having the ID user login. So it is going to find across all the elements, and it is going to find this element is having the ID identifier. This ID is an attribute, so @ID whose value is user login. Okay, so let's run the second code and let's see how it works for us. Okay, let's run the code. Okay, this time also it was able to find the element, but this time we have made a great change in the code, and it is very much like efficient to write, and very less number of changes are required. Okay, so XPath is using the like taking the help of ID identifier and is giving us an expression. Okay, similarly in XPath there are lots of functions available. We'll go like we cannot go by all the functions, but we'll choose most of the famous functions, most of the popular functions which are going to help us. Okay, so any doubt in this syntax? Anyone is having any doubt? Just let me know.
No.
No, it seems okay. Sanya, fine for you. We need to understand how this XPath works. This dot and double slash star, it means find all the elements and use this expression. It says the attribute ID is going to have this value. Okay, so let's quickly take the like rest two examples and see how it is going to how it is going to be helpful for us, how we can find the elements. So now the next element is this one. We're going to use the same way of finding the element. So let's copy this content and let's find the element. Okay, this is the element, click on that. So it is found using the same strategy of using ID identifier, XPath and ID identifier. Copy this, and what we are going to do, okay, I found username, then we are going to find password. Sorry, this is the email. So web element, this is the email element. We are not going to use this identifier, we are going to use the updated one, and this is the updated one. Copy, paste, and after finding that element I am going to enter this email ID and I am going to run that on email. Similarly I am going to find the last one is the password. Okay, so this is going to be password, find element, and this is it. In the password I am going to pass some random value. Now I have entered all the three elements. The last part is clicking on this button. So let's click on that button. Okay, so when I click on this button, you can see the XPath which is generated. Okay, the XPath which is generated is an absolute XPath. Even if I have unchecked that XPath, but it is still giving me the absolute. In these cases, just delete everything, click enter, and find the element again. Okay, it is not able to find the element, and anytime it is finding the element, it is the absolute XPath. We can take the absolute XPath and then we can convert that back into the relative ones, but right now I am going to take the one which XPath has given me. Web element sign button equal to driver dot find element by dot XPath, and I'm passing the XPath value. So I'm going to click on sign up element button dot from the click operation. Okay, now this last element is not automatically being converted to our relative XPath, but we can use our ways to convert it back. So the thing is that when I'm having this bar, okay, this address bar or this XPath finder bar, I can use my own expression and see how many elements are getting found. When I find only one element is found, and that's the element I am talking about, over here I can say only one matching node is present. So when this thing comes, while I am converting this to relative XPath, when this thing comes, I can stop and take that XPath in my code. So let's look at the code closely. So this is a button. Actually, this is a button. It is having certain class value. Okay, its a type is submit, and there are lot many other parameters, lot many other attributes as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the button by the class name. So first of all, okay, what I need to do over here, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to find all the buttons. So in XPath, if I want to find everything, I'll use dot /star, and I'll give these two brackets to enter my parameter or enter the attributes, the filtering parameter. So I'm going to find, so let's do one thing, let's first find all the buttons present in the page. So I'll go and search across all the pages, like all the elements, and I'm going to find the buttons. So let's use this one and click enter. So it has found 5 elements. So if you look at this page, you'll find this is one selected, and there are some 2-3 more things also present which may not be displayed right now, but those elements are present. So we need to go and we need to stop only when we find only one element, and that's the element which we are talking about. Okay, so I'm finding all the buttons. So it is giving me 5 matching nodes, but I don't know, I don't need all the buttons. I need only that button which is having this class type button. I need to find this label. Okay, this is an attribute. Okay, ARIA label. Okay, this is one attribute. Let's copy this, and over here I want to find the button. Now this is the expression that I want to give, which is having the attribute. Already earlier I used to use @ID, but I don't have any ID now. I'm having a different value. Area label equals to, let's refer to the last example. Okay, over here I can enter the thing that I want. It's going to be single quotes, and the value is going to be toggle navigation. Copy and paste them over here. Now you can see it is finding only one element. So I am searching for all the buttons, but I am going to find only one element whose area label attribute is having this value, toggle navigation. So I can copy this, or I can basically, okay, let's copy this entire thing and paste it in our code. Let's see if it is finding or not. Okay, so far we have done everything perfect. So let's not click on this, because if we click this is going to submit the page, and GitHub is going to like have one wrong data, wrong user registered. So fine, so let's do one thing. After finding this element, I'm going to find this text and display it on the page. I'm going to use sysout, and I'm going to use sign up button dot get text. So this is the text which is displayed text, that will be displayed on the console. Let's run the code. Right click, run as Java application. Using Google Chrome. It is taking a lot of time for the page to load. Once it is loaded, it will go to the next line for execution. Okay, loaded. It will wait.
Can I take class as an attribute?
You can take class as an attribute. Yes, that is also an attribute. So if you look at the code, you will be able to understand what are the attributes. So this is the tag, button is the tag name, class is the attribute name, type is the attribute name, area label is the attribute name, area expanded is the, so anything that is having within this tag anything equals to any value, so that thing is called as an attribute. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. So now you can see everything has run perfectly, and if you look at the code, okay, I'll go to Firefox. Okay, Okay, so actually it could not find any display text from that, so that will be little different. That will be having another. Okay, see, this is the button. It doesn't have this sign of GitHub, so it is not displaying anything. Within that button there is one more element, svg class. It's an image. Within that we have path, and the sign up for GitHub, it's actually not a text, it's an image. So that's the reason we are not able to get that image. Okay, anyways, you can give it a try with other elements you will able to find. So you understood how we have converted this absolute XPath into the related XPath. Relative XPath will always start with dot, double slash. It may have a star for finding all the elements, or it can have the specific element name. As I wanted to search only for buttons, so I have given button. Earlier I have used a different one using the, okay, over here you can see I am using double star slash star. That means it is finding all different types of element, input, button, h1a, every type of element it is searching. But when we want to optimize the code, we don't need to give it this way. We can use input. So it is going to find all the elements from the current location or the root location, only input elements, not all the elements, only input elements, which is having the ID user bracket login. Understood? This is how it should work. Okay. So this was about XPath. So XPath is having many functions. You can go through each and every function. I will share you certain links from which you can understand more about XPath. Okay. And in the meantime, when we try to go across like different modules of Selenium, different functionality of Selenium, most of the time we'll get across this XPath, and we'll understand how XPath is going to like help us in many scenarios. In certain scenarios where nothing is possible, XPath is going to help us. Okay, CSS selector is the same way of finding the element that we are finding with XPath. It has a different syntax altogether. Okay, that is less verbose. In XPath we used to write a lot many things to find one element. In CSS selector it will be reduced even more. We'll have very small amount of code. For learning CSS selector, we'll have a discussion in a separate class. But the same thing that you can do in this drop down, you can find CSS. Okay, and remove everything. Now we need to find the element. Click on this and find the element. See, this is very simple. Earlier we used to write a lot many code. Now just hash and the entire like ID. If you're finding the element using ID, it will have a hash. If you're finding the element using like class name, it won't be having hash, it will be having a dot. Okay, we'll discuss it separately. So from today's class, anyone having any doubt, you can ask me, or you can keep practicing it. You can go through the video, keep practicing. I'll share you the links. Let me know if you find any issues.